topic is SRTF, or shortest remaining time first, or you can say this is SJF with preemption. So we have discussed already the non-preemption version of that SJF. So SJF of two types, preemptive and non-preemptive. So we have already discussed in the previous lecture that non-preemptive cases in that SJF. So what is this SJF? SJF is picking the job from the ready state which is having shorter burst time. We pick the job which is having shorter burst time and allocate the CPU to that particular process. Okay, fine. So the process is having largest burst time, have to wait for that shorter burst time. So that is called SJF, and in non-preemptive cases we cannot remove that process forcefully from the CPU, okay, till its termination. So SJF with non-preemption is what? Operating system cannot remove that process from the CPU till its termination. But in preemptive cases, we can SJF with preemptive, or you can say SRTF, shortest remaining time first. So in that cases, we can remove the process from the CPU for a condition. So what is that condition? In a particular time, the operating system can remove that process from the CPU and allocate the CPU to the another process, and that currently running process have to wait in the ready state. For which condition? The condition is when the newly arrived process is reached at the ready state. Listen, again I am saying, when the newly arrived process arrived at the ready state which is having shorter burst time than that of the currently running process. Okay. So the newly arrived process is having shorter burst time than that of the remaining time of the currently running process which is executing in the CPU. At that condition, we can remove that currently running process from the CPU and allocate the CPU to the newly arrived process which is having shorter burst time. And the currently running process, where it will go? It will go to the ready state and it will wait in the ready state for the next execution. So that's why we called it as shortest remaining time first. So a condition in which a process is having shorter burst time is first allocate the CPU, and at that condition we can remove the currently running process. See, I am giving an example. Suppose this is a ready state. Okay, this is a ready state. Okay, till now no process is there. Okay, ready state is blank, the main memory is blank, and this is our CPU. Okay, so first suppose P1 is arrived at the ready state at first time, at 0 millisecond P1 is arrived, and the burst time, that is the CPU time. Okay, how many time a process is executing in the CPU, that is the burst time. So suppose, assume that the P1 having the burst time is 10 millisecond. Okay, so as it arrived first in the ready state, there is no process is here. Okay, only P1 is there, so we have no choices. We have to assign the P1 to the CPU. Okay, first CPU has to allocate this process at first, so we allocate that process. So P1 is now executing. Okay, fine. So how many time it will require to complete its execution? P1 required, so 10 milliseconds. So after 10 millisecond, P1 would terminate it. Okay. Suppose after 2-3 millisecond, there is another process, new process arrived in the ready state. Let's say after 3 milliseconds. Okay. So after 3 milliseconds, there is another process P2 is arrived. Okay. So already P1 is completed 3 milliseconds of execution. So after 10 millisecond, it would be terminated. It may be terminated. So after 3 milliseconds, the remaining burst time of the P1 is what? 7 milliseconds. Okay. So, see, after 3 millisecond, when the newly arrived processes come, which is having the burst time, suppose 5 milliseconds. Okay. It will require 5 milliseconds to complete its execution. So, what I have said, if the newly arrived process which is having shorter burst time than that of the remaining burst time of the currently running process, which is currently running process P1 is currently running at the CPU. So, obviously 5 is smaller than 7. Then at that condition, we can remove P1 from the CPU forcefully and allocate the P2 to the CPU to complete its execution, or how many time it's required, or if any another process, newly arrived process come which is having shorter burst time than the P2, then we have to again remove the P2 and allocate that newly arrived process to the CPU, and the currently running process P1 is waiting at the ready state again. So, it will require the remaining 7 milliseconds to complete its executions. Okay. So, here look at this. So, it says that whenever new process arrives, there may be preemption of running process. See, you cannot say that there will be preemption of the running process. You cannot say that whenever new process arrives, there will be preemption of running process. See, that is not true. It is not true that if always a newly arrived process comes at the ready state, then the currently running process will be preempted always. That is not true. So, at which condition? If the newly arrived process is having shorter burst time than that of the currently running process, remaining burst time of the currently running process. So, at that time that currently running process will be preempted, not always. Okay, that is not true. May or may not be. Fine. So, you will get it clear by the example I have given here. So, it is the same example that I have given in the previous lecture on the non-preemption of the SJF. Okay, SJF of non-preemption cases mein that was the same example, and I am giving the same example for the preemption cases, SJF with preemption. Okay. So, draw the Gantt chart. So, I have to draw it properly and correctly. Okay, fine. So, assumption is what? Assumption is time would be start from 0 milliseconds. Okay, as always. So, see, at time 0, see at the table here, at time 0 millisecond, is there any process has arrived at the ready state? See at the arrival time, see the arrival time of the processes, we have 5 processes and arrival time of the each and every processes are given, burst time is also given. So, at 0 millisecond, yes, we have P4, okay, then we have no choice. As the SJF is what? We picking the process which is having smaller burst time, okay. Already we have the smaller burst time, let's say 1, this is smaller burst time, P1 and P3 is having smaller burst time. Then why we are picking the process P4? Because already in the previous lecture I have said that we have no choice, because the P1 arrival time of the P1 is 2 millisecond, arrival time of the P3 is 4 millisecond, whether the burst time is smaller, whether the P4 is having higher burst time, but we have no choice. In ready state already P4 is comes now. So, now ready state is having the process P4. So, we have to assign to the CPU to that P4. Okay. So, CPU is allocated to the P4, okay, at 0 millisecond. It is not like that it will continue its execution for 6 milliseconds. That was in non-preemption cases. We cannot remove that process forcefully, okay, to complete its execution. It execute for 0 to 6 millisecond for till its terminations. We cannot remove that process. It is not like that. In preemption cases, we have to check each unit of time. Is there any newly processes arrived at the ready state? Each and every state, each and every time of each and every unit of time, short term scheduler checks the ready state. Is there any process comes at the each and every milliseconds? Okay. So P4 will not continue its execution. After 1 millisecond, it will continue its execution for 1 milliseconds. Okay. So at 1 millisecond, we have to check, is there any newly arrived process comes at the ready state? See, now in ready state, we have only P4 now, and P4 already completes its execution of 1 millisecond. And at 1 millisecond, yes, we have P2 already arrived at the ready state. So ready state at 1 millisecond, P2 is arrived now. So we have to check what? We have to check the burst time of that newly arrived process and compare the remaining process, remaining time of the currently running process, which is continue its execution. And if as P4 completes 1 milliseconds of the execution, so remaining time is what? You have to update it. So P4 having 5 milliseconds to complete its execution, as it completes its execution in already 1 milliseconds. So we have to compare what? P2 and P4, because P2 is newly arrived process. Okay. So what is the burst time of P2? 5. What is the remaining time of the P4? 5. So there is a tie. And when there is a tie, we have to apply what? We have to apply first come, first serve. Okay. The order of writing the process. Okay. So P4 is reached before the P2. Okay. So we have to apply FCFS. So P4, the arrival time of the P4 is what? 0. Okay. In FCFS, we saw the arrival time, but now we already saw the burst time, and burst time is same. So we have to apply FCFS. Which processes comes first? P4 comes first. So we cannot remove P4 from the CPU, because already the burst time of the P4 and the P2 is same, and P4 comes at the ready state first. So P4 continue its execution. So we have to allocate, we have to continue P4 for how many time? Again next 1 millisecond. So 2 millisecond it will continue. So the remaining burst time of the P4 is what? 4. So it required 4 milliseconds to complete its executions. Okay. So now we are in 2 milliseconds. Okay. So check out at 2 millisecond. See, we cannot allocate the P2 to the CPU. Okay. So next, check at 2 millisecond, is there any process that arrived at the ready state? Yes. Now in the ready state, we have in 2 millisecond, we have P1, P5, already at the 1 and 0 millisecond, P2, P4 already have been reached at the ready state. So in the ready state, how many processes there? Newly arrived processes P1 and P5. P1 and P5. So in ready state, how many processes there? 4 processes is there. And we have to check the smallest burst time. And when the newly arrived process has come, which is having smaller burst time as compared to the currently running process, then we have to stop that currently running process running execution and allocate to the CPU the newly arrived process. So check out the burst time of the P1 and P5. So what is the burst time of the P1 and what is the burst time of the P5? So burst time of the P1 is 1, that is so small, and P5 is 3. So we have burst time 1, 5, 4, 3, 1, 5, 4 and 3. Okay, so which is small? 1 is small. So we have to continue, we have to allocate the CPU to the P1. So P1 will continue its execution for how many time? For 1 millisecond. So P1 is terminated. P1 is terminated. Okay. So next, at 3 millisecond, is there any process at the ready state? No. At the ready state, at 3 millisecond, there is no newly process arrived at the ready state. Okay, we have only that P2, P4, P5. So we have to check the burst time of the P2, P4 and P5. So we have, see, P1 is done. Okay. So P2, P4, P5, 5, 4, 3, which is smaller? So among these, 3 is smaller. Then we have to allocate the P5 to the CPU. P1 is terminated. Then we have to allocate the CPU to the P5. For how many times? Each and every unit of times. For 1 milliseconds at 4 milliseconds. So the remaining time of the P5 is what? 2. Fine. So check out, at the 4 millisecond, is there any process has arrived at the ready state? Okay. Already we have P2, P4, P5 and P1 has terminated. So at 4 millisecond, there is P3 that is newly arrived at the ready state. Fine. And the burst time of the P3 is 1 millisecond. So compared 1, 4, 2, 5. So it has been done. So here is, it is smaller than all among these burst time. So we have to allocate that CPU and stop currently running process in ready to wait in the ready state. We have to allocate what? P3. So P3 completes its execution for 1 milliseconds. Okay. So P3 has been terminated. Okay. P3 is terminated. So at 5 millisecond, so we have at a point when there is all the processes is within the ready state. At 5 millisecond, because there is no process newly arrived at the ready state, we have only 5 processes, and among 5 processes 2 have been already completed. We have reached at a point at the 5 millisecond, there is all the processes in the ready state. Now it will be solved as SJF, simply SJF with non-preemption. Okay, we have to apply, with not necessary to check each and every millisecond. Okay, we have, because there is no chance newly arrived process is stay at the ready state. Okay, we have already all processes here in the ready state. So among P4, P2, P5, we have to apply simply SJF with non-preemption, which is having smaller burst time, because there is no newly process arrived at the ready state. P2, P4, P5. So P2, P4, P5. P3 have been done. P2, P4, P5, which is having smaller burst time, 5, 4, 2. So P5 is having smaller burst time. So CPU will allocate to the P5. How many time? The remaining time is 2 milliseconds to terminate its execution. So 5 7. So there is no need. You can check for 6 millisecond, again 7 millisecond, P5. You have to check, but no need to check. Okay, there is no newly arrived process in the ready state, so it is not necessary. So you have to just complete as soon as possible. Okay, simply as SJF with non-preemption. So P5 has done. So how many processes are there in the ready state? P2 and P4. Okay, so P5 completed, we have P2, P4. So the remaining burst time of the P4 is what? 4, and P2 is 5, which is smaller, P4 is smaller burst time. So you have to allocate P4 for 11. At 11 millisecond, P4 is terminated. Okay, so P4 has been done, and last one, that is P2. What is the burst time of the P2? That is 5 millisecond, 16. So that is the Gantt chart of the SJF of preemption. That is the style of preemption version of SJF. See, in these cases, is there any time that is CPU is ideal? No. So finally, the final execution time of the CPU, the final termination time of the CPU is equal to the sum of burst time. See, 3 plus 6, that is 9, 10, 15 and 16. Okay, take the actual burst time, 6, 5, 3, not 2, 4, this is not the actual burst, this is the remaining time. Take the actual burst time. Okay, sum of actual burst time is 16, and here is, see, the final execution time of the CPU is 16, same. In the previous lecture, I have already told about that. Okay, take care of it. So let us find out the turnaround time, average waiting time, average turnaround time, response time, and all of that. Okay, so let's start. First we have to find out the completion time. Okay, what is the completion time of P1? See, for P1, see, what is the completion time? P1 is executing for 2 to 3 millisecond, only 1 millisecond. Is there any time where the P1 is executing? No, there is no P1 is here, only 1. So the completion time of the P1 is 3. So for P2, what is the completion time? That is 16. For P3, that is 5. For P4, what is the completion time? See, here is also P4 is executing, and here is also P4 is executing for 2 milliseconds. This is not taking, do not take this time. Okay, do not take this time, 1 millisecond, 2 millisecond. Final completion time is P4. Here is also the final termination time is 11 millisecond. At the 11 millisecond, P4 has been terminated. Okay, so the completion time of the P4 is 11. Okay, so the completion time of the P5 is 7. Okay, here also P5 is executing, but we have check out the final completion time, that is P5. Here 7 millisecond P5 has been terminated, that is 7. So that is the completion time. Check out the turnaround time. So what is turnaround time? Completion time minus arrival time. Okay, so that is the turnaround time. Okay, what is the completion time of the P1? Check out. 3 minus 2, that is 1. 16 minus 1, that is 15. 5 minus 4, that is 1. 11 minus 0, 11. 7 minus 2, that is 5. This is the turnaround time. Okay, let us find out the waiting time. So waiting time is turnaround time minus burst time. So let us find out the waiting time. So turnaround time for P1, turnaround time is 1. 1 minus 1, that is 0. 15 minus 5, that is 10. So 1 minus 1, that is 0. 11 minus 6, don't take the remaining time 4 or 5, take the actual burst time. Okay, 11 minus 6, that is 5. 5 minus 3, that is 2. Okay, that is the waiting time, or on the other word you can find out the waiting time on a formula, that is waiting time equal to total waiting time minus execution time, CPU time, minus arrival time. You can calculate through this formula. Let us try. So for P1, total waiting time. So for P1, what is the total waiting time? How many time P1 is wait to complete its execution? For 2 millisecond. Look at the left side. Okay, 2 millisecond. Is there any time where the P1 is executing? No, only 1 millisecond it is. So the waiting time is 2 millisecond. At the 2 millisecond, it is allocated to the CPU. So it wait at the ready state for the 2 millisecond. So total waiting time is 2 minus execution time. In this case, before P1, before this execution, is there any time where the P1 is executing? No. P1 is executing at 2 millisecond. It starts its execution at 2 millisecond. Before that, it is not executing. So the execution time will be 0 minus arrival time of the P1. What is the arrival time of the P1? That is 2. 2 minus 2, that is 0. Okay. So check out the waiting time. So like that, let us find out for P4. Let's say P4. Okay. So here, how many time P4 required to complete its execution? See, not look at this. Here already 2 millisecond it has completed its executions, and P4 finally 7. Okay. So 7 minus, before completing its execution, is there any time where the P4 is executing before? So we have to subtract that. This is not the actual waiting time, because before that P4 is executing sometimes. Okay, we have to subtract that. Okay, so here already 2 millisecond P4 is executing here, minus arrival time of that process P4. Okay, so what is the arrival time of the P4? 0. So 5. So check out. So P4, the waiting time of the P4 is 5. So that is the way you can do using that formula. Okay. So next is response time. At what time the process is allocated to the CPU? Okay. For P1, check out at what time P1 is allocated to CPU. CPU is allocated to the P1. At what time? At 2 millisecond. At 2 millisecond, don't look at this 3. At 3 millisecond P1 is terminated. Okay. Look at the left side of that process. Okay. At 2 millisecond, P1 assigned to the CPU at first time. So the response time is, what is the arrival time? That is 2. So at whenever the P1 is arrived at the ready state as well as CPU, at that time CPU allocated to that process. So it had not to wait many seconds. Okay, it assigned to the CPU at the time of that process arrival. So what is the response time? 0. 2 minus 2, that is 0. So for P2, what is the response time at first time, what is the CPU time? At what time CPU is allocated to that process? So 11. Okay, is there any time that is P2 is executing? No. This is the time when the CPU is allocated to that process. Okay, and what is the arrival time of the P2? That is 1. So 11 minus 1, that is 10. So for P3, so what is the time? That is 4. Arrival time 4. 4 minus 4, that is 0. For P4, here is also P4 is executing and here is also P4 executing, but the time when the CPU is allocated to the P4, that is at first 0 millisecond. So when it is arrived at that time, it is allocated to the CPU. So the time is, but the time is 0, response time is 0. So arrival time of the P4 is 0 millisecond and that time it is allocated to the CPU. So 0. For P5, what is the time when it allocated to the CPU? 3 millisecond. 3 millisecond P1 is terminated and at that time P5 is allocated to the CPU. And the arrival time of the P5 is 2. So 3 minus 2, that is 1. So here in this case, look at this, waiting time and response time. In the non-preemptive cases, waiting time and response time are same. Okay, here 0, 10, 0, 5, 2, here 0, 10, 0, 0, 1. So waiting time response time is not same at this preemptive cases. So there is many types of advantage and disadvantage of this SRTF, or you can say SJF with preemption. Starvation cases is there. Okay, so in the next video I'll discuss the advantage and disadvantage of this SRTF and I will give another example of this SRTF. Okay, till then take care, bye bye.